If you clicked on this video, you have probably experienced this situation. You share some good news, and for a single second, before the words of support are spoken, there is a silence. A tiny, almost imperceptible silence. A brief adjustment on the other person's face before the smile appears. A pause that lasts half a second longer than it should. You tell them you are doing well, that you are changing, that you are reaching for something greater. And the response comes, but it comes late. It comes with a reservation you cannot quite name. It comes wrapped in phrases that sound like support, but carry a different weight underneath. Good for you. I hope it works out this time. Just be careful not to get disappointed. You must have wondered if you were exaggerating, if you were being too sensitive, too suspicious, or ungrateful toward people who, at the end of the day, were supposedly just worried about you. And that is precisely where this mechanism hides best, in the doubt it plants in your mind before anything else. This is real. You are not being paranoid. There is a part of the human mind that does not want you to grow. A part that, when confronted with your progress, does not feel joy. It feels threatened. And this part does not belong only to strangers, rivals, or declared enemies. This part lives in the people closest to you. It lives in those who raised you, in the person sleeping beside you, and in the person you call your best friend. You have learned to expect sabotage in obvious ways, a cruel comment, a direct comparison, or an open declaration of ill will. The kind of explicit attack that allows you to point a finger and immediately identify the hostility. But real sabotage, the kind that actually shapes your life over the years, almost never presents itself with such clarity. It operates far too discreetly to be confronted, yet far too constantly to be ignored. It disguises itself as concern. It manifests as unsolicited advice, delivered with the authority of someone pretending to know better. It appears in that phrase, "I just don't want you to get disappointed," repeated at every announcement of a new plan. It shows up in constant questioning, a subtle doubt that accompanies every decision, every shift in direction, and every attempt to break away from the past. This resistance translates into silence during your achievements and generous attention during your stumbles. Notice this. In your moments of error, there is space, time, and an almost therapeutic interest in analyzing what went wrong. Yet in moments of success, the focus shifts away with uncomfortable speed. Someone will always make it a point to bring up your last failure in vivid detail precisely when you are projecting your future, transforming your previous downfall into the ultimate argument against your evolution. Taken in isolation, all of this seems too subtle, easily justified as legitimate protectiveness. However, when you connect the dots over time, a clear mechanism reveals itself. Carl Jung described the psychology behind this dynamic decades ago. Long before this behavior ever gained a label in popular culture, Jung dedicated a large part of his life to studying what he called the shadow, the psychic territory where we deposit everything we refuse to admit about ourselves. It is the refuge of envy disguised as common sense, cowardice masquerading as prudence, and stagnation dressed up as stability. There lies the regret for paths we never dared to walk, masquerading as wisdom acquired with age. According to Jung, carrying the shadow is a universal human condition. It is formed from every fragment of authenticity we had to reject in order to adjust to the demands of family, culture, and emotional survival. Every renunciation, every internalized limiting belief, and every dream abandoned too soon remains alive and active in this basement of the mind, exerting pressure on the surface. The shadow does not lose its power simply by being ignored. It waits. It tenses against the barrier of consciousness and reacts with hostility whenever someone nearby exposes, even unintentionally, the wounds it has spent years trying to hide. Your growth acts exactly as that trigger. Every time you move forward with a project the other person abandoned, every time you alter a reality they deemed unchangeable and proved that it was possible to take a different route, you shine a light directly into the basement that person spent a lifetime trying to keep locked away. Human relationships naturally seek homeostasis, a state of stable equilibrium. Systems theory demonstrates how each individual assumes a fixed role, organizing family dynamics, friendship circles, and the workplace around these implicit functions. You assume the position of the cautious one. Another becomes the decisive one. A third carries the label of the one who never prospers. And a fourth is seen as the eternal quitter. As long as every gear remains in its designated place, the system functions without friction, sparing everyone the need for adjustments or internal confrontations. However, when you begin to expand beyond your predetermined role, this balance breaks down. Social systems, much like living organisms, resist any alteration that threatens their internal stability, even if that change brings obvious benefits to the person who is evolving. For this reason, family cores develop unconscious mechanisms to pull back the member who moves too fast. This movement is not born out of intentional malice. It stems from the system's discomfort with destabilization, triggering an automatic correction attempt. Simultaneously, your progress acts as an inevitable mirror. It forces the environment around you to face intimate and rarely verbalized questions. Why didn't I try the same? Why did I allow my own stagnation? Why did I accept mediocrity instead of fighting for more? This brutal honesty is unbearable for most. To admit these truths would mean recognizing fear and taking responsibility for years of choices based on comfort. Faced with this, the mind adopts a defensive psychological shortcut. Instead of confronting its own inertia, it devalues the achievements of others. By reducing your success to mere luck, privilege, or coincidence, the onlooker's stagnation ceases to look like a personal omission and is once again justified as an inevitable fate. This maneuver relieves guilt and protects their self-image. This is the very reason the mechanism is so difficult to detect. It does not aim for your direct destruction, but rather for the psychological shielding of the person practicing it. The 7 reasons. 1. Your growth exposes the stagnation of others. Your shift in routine, your rising ambition, and the elevation of your standard of living function as a silent accusation against whoever remains motionless, even if you never criticize their life. Your discipline at dawn reminds the chronic procrastinator of their own delays. The execution of your project shines a light on the ideas the other person has kept shelved for a decade out of fear of failing. The comparison occurs automatically in the observer's mind, generated solely by your insistence on moving forward. 2. You threaten the role assigned to you. Every social structure distributes invisible and non-negotiable functions. The provider son, the confidant friend, the predictable brother, the flexible partner. These roles operate as implicit contracts. When you break through these boundaries, when the provider son prioritizes himself or the confidant establishes boundaries, the system loses the predictability it depended upon. This collapse generates immediate discomfort, which, lacking conscious processing, manifests as resistance disguised as paternal advice. 3. Your success invalidates their safe choice. Those who chose immobility, whether out of fear or convenience, must believe in the wisdom of their choice for their own emotional self-preservation. Admitting that their paralysis was a mistake would bring an intolerable existential weight. Your growth destroys that protective narrative. The environment's reaction will rarely be one of inspiration. There will be an urgent need to label your path as dangerous, your results as a fluke, and your effort as an unsustainable strain. These criticisms reveal only the urgency to keep intact the personal myth that your example threatens to ruin. 4. They depend on your vulnerability to maintain their own function. Many bonds feed on a veiled dependency. Certain identities are built entirely around being useful, giving advice, or saving a partner from their own vulnerability. As you achieve autonomy and stop seeking external validation for your problems, these people lose their dramatic function in the relationship. Since few possess the maturity to admit the void generated by your independence, it becomes more comfortable to label your evolution as arrogance, coldness, or detachment. 5. Unconscious comparison is channeled as devaluation. When pride prevents an individual from admitting they desire what you have achieved, The mind operates a compensatory devaluation. Your discipline is labeled a neurotic obsession. Your focus is read as inflated selfishness. Your achievement is reduced to connections or favoritism. This is an entirely unconscious process, a mental shield that depreciates another's virtue so they do not have to face their own paralysis. 6. The fear of abandonment projects itself as criticism. The complaint, "you have changed too much," rarely reflects a neutral observation. It is, in truth, the fear of abandonment masquerading as moral judgment. It is the dread that by expanding, you will outgrow the company that was once enough, leaving others behind as part of a bypassed past. This terror manifests under the veil of nostalgia or false care, operating as a desperate plea for you to return to the size you used to be. 7. Your failure would validate their worldview. There is a final, even more uncomfortable psychological mechanism. For some, your downfall brings a perverse psychological relief. The confirmation that daring is a mistake, that reality is intrinsically limited, and that they were right never to try. The unconscious rooting for your stumble functions as the ultimate validation of their philosophy of life. Your success ruins the narrative that justifies their cowardice. Your failure keeps it protected. The absence of malicious intent is the most complex aspect to accept. The majority of people who pull away during your ascent are unaware of the true motives behind their own behavior. If questioned, they will convincingly defend their concern and affection. On the surface layer of consciousness, this justification is authentic because the entire defensive dynamic operates at subterranean levels. The environment projects its own unease onto you because admitting the internal origin of that discomfort would require a direct confrontation with the shadow. Jung emphasized that facing one's own darkness is one of the most arduous tasks of existence. He named this process individuation, the journey toward wholeness through the recognition and integration of all previously rejected parts. Because it demands relentless honesty, most prefer the convenience of external explanations over this intimate investigation. These individuals shield the persona, the social mask built to ensure acceptance and predictability. Any factor that threatens the integrity of that mask, above all your progress, is interpreted by the psyche as a biological threat to be neutralized, not as a model to be emulated. This scenario also activates enantiodromia, the Heraclitean principle adopted by Jung to explain how a psychic state driven to an extreme converges into its opposite. The prolonged repression of ambition or the desire for expansion does not annihilate these forces. It builds up an internal tension that demands an outlet. Frequently, this accumulated energy leaks out in the form of judgment and censorship toward the ambition of others, temporarily relieving the pressure of repressed desire. Added to this is the activation of complexes. Jung defined a complex as a collection of densely charged memories and emotions gathered around a thematic core, such as rejection or inferiority. When your success, even unintentionally, touches someone's complex, the response you receive will be entirely disproportionate to your present action. The resulting aggressiveness or coldness does not measure your attitude. It measures the old wound that you, involuntarily, have just exposed. Within the family setting, resistance manifests through subtle rituals. It takes the form of repetitive questions about your financial security, delivered with an affectionate tone that plants the seed of insecurity in your planning. It appears as surgical reminders of mistakes made in your youth, brought to the table the exact instant you share a victory, operating as a historical veto against your future possibilities. It also manifests in veiled comparisons, exalting a relative's conventional choice as a warning against your pioneering path. In the professional space, the dynamic takes on political overtones. It is the colleague who validates your idea in public to preserve their own image of sportsmanship, but sows rumors and doubts about your management capabilities behind the scenes. It is the manager who dismisses your record achievements with protocolary nods, but confiscates hours of a meeting to dissect a minor deviation, postponing your recognition under the eternal promise of a future evaluation. In friendships, subtle hostility adopts the vehicle of humor. It appears as frequent ironies regarding your new study routine or diet, revealing their discomfort with your transformation. The invitations decrease as you stop sharing the same excesses or the same stagnation as before, interpreting your new posture as an implicit betrayal of the group's codes. The phenomenon hits romantic relationships in an even quieter way. It manifests in the partner who boasts about your achievements socially, but domestically sabotages the time and energy demanded by your evolution. The question, "Don't you think you're overdoing it?" begins to echo whenever your new horizons demand the expansion of the space the relationship was accustomed to occupying. In none of these situations will there be an explicit declaration of a boycott. You will face only a persistent, invisible countercurrent pushing against your growth. This force only becomes clear when you cease making excuses and begin to analyze the pattern over time. Understanding this mechanic dissolves the fog of guilt. You stop searching for personal flaws in your behavior and begin to interpret the pulling away of others as concrete data regarding the structure of those relationships. Those who celebrate your progress without reservations and seek to understand your methodology reveal a commitment to their own growth. On the other hand, those who withdraw or camouflage hostility under the mantle of concern demonstrate a neurotic attachment to your old version, that limited version that offered no risks to their comfort zone and never confronted them with the choices they themselves failed to make. Individuation has never depended on collective approval, even though our biological heritage seeks belonging as a guarantee of survival. Real maturity lies in identifying who tolerates your grandiosity and who only tolerated your stagnation because it demanded nothing beyond the predictable. If this analysis gave a name to any relationship in your life and brought a specific face to your mind, write "I understand" in the comments. This gesture does not aim to expose anyone, but to seal a commitment to your own perception of reality. To keep unlocking the mechanisms of projection, defense, and self-delusion mapped out by Carl Jung, stay tuned to the channel. The further we advance into this territory, the less room remains for illusions, both the world's and our own. See you in the next video.